Making my digital footage look like film is one of my favorite things to do, and I'm not saying I nail it every time, but it's actually the only look that I really wanted to learn how to achieve when I first started filmmaking. And there's a ton of different ways to get that look, and that may be foreshadowing, but one particular power grade that I've avoided for a while for no reason at all actually is the Tom Bowles Cineprint 16, but that is until this subscriber asked me to look at it. And so in this video, we're going to talk about the power grade itself, how to use it specifically with F-Log2 or any other color profile you might land on. And then I think I'm gonna add in a little hot take that probably a lot of professional colorists are gonna get mad at me for, but I don't care. So let's get into it. Also, I'm not a colorist. So this is just from a guy who has used a lot of film emulation plugins. All right, so we have a bunch of footage here. A lot of the Joan boys. I'm working with them a lot right now, and a lot of the footage that we shoot is particularly fun. So that's why you're gonna see a lot of footage from them. I'm sorry, but it's whatever. I'm excited about it. So we're gonna throw on Cineprint 16 to this shot, and a lot of people have had issues in the past using this power grade with F-Log2 because it relies on a color space transform, and unfortunately, DaVinci hasn't had that before. So if you happen to not be on DaVinci 19 yet, you can always purchase these XH2S to Alexa LUTs. They're gonna be pretty solid, but to be honest, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I really like these LUTs and they're super helpful. But if you are in DaVinci Resolve 19, then you can obviously select F-Log2, which is somewhere here that I can find. Aha, there we go. So now we're good to go. And a hot take that I think I'm just gonna tell you now is that sometimes I don't change out of Verilog C. I just let it rock, and I found that the results are actually pretty decent. So I'm not saying that they're the exact same profile. I know that there's so many details to color spaces and gammas and all that that you need to be using the one that's specific to your camera. But sometimes I don't, and it still looks great. So sue me, I guess, if you're a colorist, but I don't care. Okay, now on to how to use this power grade. What we basically have is a lot of transform and almost pre-grading work being done right here. So you've got your camera's white balance, which we're definitely gonna need to correct. And it's up here in this chromatic adaptation tool. And honestly, I really enjoy this tool because I feel like you are able to dial in a very true white balance. It's very precise, and I haven't ever actually used this tool, so yeah, I'm a big fan. And it's based on your color space, so that's important as well, and it comes after your color space transform. It all works together, right? A little bit of exposure changes here. Honestly, I think this shot's kind of in a good spot. We have some other nodes here, pre-contrast, but I'm not really gonna mess with those, and I'm not gonna mess with these either. Now, obviously, if you want to adjust the grain or add some dust, we can totally do that. But for me, the real magic is in these last bit of nodes here. And I will add that comparatively to some other power grades that I've used, this is by far, I think, the most complicated. And I don't know if it is because of how things are labeled or what exactly it is, but I have noticed there's a lot more going on in this one than any of the other ones. And it's somewhat harder to figure out. So we got neon suppression right here. You can see how this affects the image. And honestly, I think this looks really good. I probably would add this on a lot of shots, but I don't mind it without either. So you're gonna see Lab Mix L will affect the low end, and Lab Mix H will affect the high end of the image, and you can do with those what you will. Then we have this saturation, so if we really wanna boost that saturation, we can, and you can mix and match any of these as you want. So we have a vintage one, which is gonna be a very kind of bleach bypass look, which I think is pretty cool. And then we have all of these post look or grading tools. So a lot of this stuff is going to be correction based, right? So we want to get an accurate kind of white balance with these tools up at the top. But then once we get to the grading side of it, then that's when we're going to bring in the look, and it's really going to affect our final image. And the reason that this is coming later is just because once you get that neutral look, then you can build off of that. And so then you may want to further adjust the same parameters like white balance, exposure, and contrast that you adjusted in your correction, but you're just gonna adjust it later so it'll stack on top. And I should clarify, if you're not familiar already, nodes work like a water system. So the water is the beginning of the footage here, right? And this little line is is linking up to all of these different filters. And so if you're adjusting a filter that is down the line, like for instance, this white balance, we're filtering water that has already gone through all of these additional filters. And I think that that is a really great way to work. And it really helps you create some awesome looks. And it's also the main reason why I can't color grade in anything else, because this workflow is so efficient and allows you to do so much more with your footage than like a Premiere or a Final Cut would. No shade if you're using those programs, but what I like about CinePrint is that you're gonna get the look right off the bat. It's gonna just give it to you once you get your white balance corrected. But there are some different looks that we can add in at the very end here. If we don't wanna mess with the grading tools that are here, then we can just add in some looks here, right? I do like this highlight soften tool. It's not very destructive, which is good. Sometimes when you bring the highlights down, see how you start to lose that information? That is not what we want with a highlight tool, which is why I like this one, because as you can see, it's much brighter before we turn it on. And then when we turn it on, it's darker, but you're not losing the information. It's not being destructive. So really great highlight softening tool. And then we have the two kind of main looks that we can create. So we have this Cine on film look, which is what we're looking at right now, but we can turn that off and then turn on the print film, and that gives us a different look as well. Now, I don't necessarily love print film plus vintage, but if you turn vintage off, then I start to really like this, and maybe I do a little neon suppression, or I do a little, I don't really like that one either. The Lab Mix L brings the shadows up quite a bit, and then we have this endpoints here, which is really just a very clean contrast adjustment. So it is gonna bring more contrast into your image via this curve here, and it looks pretty good, especially if you want that contrasty look. A lot of people like a nice faded film look, so if you like that, I'd turn off endpoints. And then we have a D55, kind of like warmer, just grade. If you're looking for your footage to have just a nice, inviting, warm tone, you can throw that on at the end, and it'll wrap it all up for you. Now, let's go with this look here. I kind of like where this is headed. I might add the neon suppression. Maybe what I don't like about neon suppression is, as you can see in these whites, the tint is shifting magenta quite a bit. So I think I'll just keep this look here. What I love about this power grade and the other power grades I've tested is simply by turning off and on different nodes, we're able to dial in our look, and all we really had to do was adjust the white balance. I said this one was more complicated, but I really can't complain, because at the end of the day, it's not that complicated. But what I will do is I'll right click and grab this still, and then we can start to apply this to some other footage. Love that. Might come into our camera exposure and bring it up a little bit using the offset wheel. There we go. I mean, you could keep it low, but just for fun. And then another one here, love that. Probably gonna bring the highlights down in the camera exposure, mainly because, I don't know if that's against the rules, Tom will have to tell us, but these highlights are pretty bright back here. Nothing's clipping, but they're pretty bright, so that's why I bring it down in the camera exposure. Little shot of the Juno here, love that, not gonna change anything there. Friend Steven, looks awesome actually. I mean, I really love this power grade. It gives you a really clean look compared to some other things I've used. I mean, okay, the halation may be a little much. Turning the halation off for this shot, I do enjoy. And see, we're bringing the highlights down in the camera exposure, and boom, we have unclipped windows. I mean, they weren't clipped to begin with, but you get the idea. Throwing this on a couple more shots. I'm actually gonna copy this one and throw it on here. Super fun. This wide angle lens, clearly I'm having a ton of fun with. It's this was all shot on the Fuji X-H2S with a 12 millimeter, I think it's a 7 Artisans lens. And this ring around it is actually a variable ND. And when I put it on it, you start to see the edges of the variable ND, and I kind of love that. I really like this power grade. I think it makes footage look awesome with like no work, which is crazy. I mean, there's no lighting in this shot. Nothing has been done to this footage besides film it and get a good exposure in camera, and then just throw this power grade on it. Like, I love this look. So now we'll go into some of this. Again, XH2S. Obviously, we're gonna need to correct the white balance here. Okay, that's not half bad. A little warm for my taste, but 5700, come on. A nice element to this power grade is the blue in the shadows. And a lot of that is coming from this print film, because this is a 2383 focused print film look. You can go in here and you could do different looks. So you have this, this one here, which is, I think, the Fuji 3513 print film look, but I prefer 2383. It's gonna be very easy to work with this power grade once you understand the node tree. And that's, I think, the big piece of this is like, if you're gonna use one of these, you're gonna need to understand the node tree and, you know, test it out, really understand what's going on. And yeah, I don't know if this look gives you just a dramatically different look than what some of the other existing power grades can do. So really for you, it comes down to, you know, do you want a more complicated interface like this? Do you want something simple, more simple, like Film Unlimited? Or do you want to go even more simple and go Film Vision, where you have 5 nodes in the node tree? It really is up to you and what you prefer. But I do think it's helpful to see this, and so that you can compare it to the other ones and decide which one you actually want to purchase. Or do you want to get like Dehancer or Filmbox, spend a lot of money, but get a really, really sick look. And I will say this video was solely created for my subscriber here who asked this question. So if you have a question that you really would like me to answer, something that I can help you with in your filmmaking journey, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video for it. Like, that's just part of my ideas now. Every time I see a comment that is a question, I'll screenshot it, add it to my idea list, and that puts it in the running to be a video in the future. If you want, you can check out either of these 2 videos. This is on Film Vision and this one is on Film Unlimited, which are 2 of my other favorite film emulation power grades. So here we got the new camera, Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. It is full frame. We're going full frame to locking EF mount, which is beautiful. And then this EFS 10 to 18, honestly crazy variable aperture lens. Because it's a crop sensor lens, it's giving us this really unique look with this crazy vignette, as you can see in the frame here. And then I've got that going to a small HD monitor. It could be any monitor, but that's what I'm using. My lighting is gonna be this tiny little Lume Cube 10-inch tube with a pool noodle around it. Shout out Carlos Stiggs. Then we have our window, which is giving some light. I've got this little desk lamp, another practical and another practical, and I have the key light over here on the right because it is the same side as my window, but I do think I kind of overdid it with the exposure on this one. Could have gone a little less on the intensity on the light, but that's okay. So that's the deal, and I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any other questions.